We are live. We've been threatening to do this for a little while, but we needed to get into a crisis situation before we had to call the Ray Donovan of agency recruitment. How are you, Andy Hallett?
Good, thank you. Hold up here in Reading. I'm not in self-isolation, but we are in lockdown here. So, but yeah, trying to keep busy.
All the redundant recruiters haven't been breaking into your house for food and wine?
No, we're quite well stocked for both, but no, it's quite safe around here.
Yeah. And you're away from the family. They're in South Africa right now, is that right?
Yeah, so since July 18, wife and kids been down in Cape Town, and I've been commuting between London and Cape Town, using working from home, some nice holidays, and yeah. So I was due to be back there now, but the music stopped, and yeah, it looks like I'm stuck in the UK.
What's it like there with this?
So yeah, they've gone really early. They've got relatively low infection rate. They've had no deaths, but they're on a 21-day lockdown as of tomorrow. So they've gone early, and I think they're probably 3 or 4 weeks behind us, and probably 6 weeks behind Italy. So I think they've actually learned that, actually let's stop this as quickly as we can and bring down that curve.
Do you think they'll be able to handle it when it gets into the poor communities?
I'm really not sure. I think no one knows what's going to happen. I think the whole thing about this crisis is completely unprecedented. So, you know what? As a nation, it's one of the most positive and amazing places, even with all of the poverty. And I think I was there for the World Cup. Obviously, the wrong result in a room of 25 South Africans and me wearing an England shirt. But, as a nation, they really do come together. And I think they've got some really strong leadership. They've showed strong leadership. And I think, if they can get through this, I think they'll come out of it the other side even stronger.
For anybody who doesn't know you, can you give me your elevator pitch, please?
Well, I guess I'm still working that out, actually, as we'll go on. So I'm relatively new to all of this, but I joined the staffing business in 1999. So I joined Huxley Associates as a trainee recruiter. I went through contract recruiter, through to manager, through to commercial manager at Huxley, and then commercial director for the S3 group. My last role there was working on investments and innovation. So, pretty much I'm 20 years at S3, background primarily in contract and a background in, effectively being part of what's been an amazing growth, of a fantastic organisation.
Talk to me about those early days, because I've had lots of guests on from different firms, and there seems to be a nucleus of founders that came from S3 around that time. What was that like?
I guess you didn't know it at the time, but what I would say is S3 has always had, in my opinion, amazing work ethic, led by inspirational people. And that really goes even back to the sort of, Bill and Simon who founded the company. Then you've got people like Russell and Sunil, who were the sort of very early employees, Tim Lloyd. And you can list off a whole raft of names. All of these were amazing salespeople who then became amazing business people and then became inspirational, aspirational leaders. But never lost that can-do culture. Never lost that culture of once the company decided it was going to go and do something, it did it, and it did it well. And I think it very much started from a very strong work ethic. I think we found, certainly when we joined the company, myself and my peers, that wow, these guys work hard, and they reward well, but they work hard, and it was fun as well. Growing that business was fun. Working with very like-minded, talented people, and everything felt possible. So yeah, it was just an amazing environment led by. I would say that the single most important thing was the quality of the leadership, and the leadership that walked the walk as well.
What companies have come from S3 off the top of your head, where the founders were trained?
So there's been some fantastic ones. Typically, you'll think about the exits,
Yeah.
but if you think about Frank Group, if you think about Faden, so Frank was Sean Wadsworth, Faden, Adam Buck. There's some fantastic other businesses around there as well. So of the guys that I would have worked with, you've got people like Del Simpson and Pete Hart at Austin Fraser. You've got Connor Rockney at Rock Search. You know, they were great. Great people to work with, and they've gone on and built some great businesses.
It's amazing, and that's only a snapshot of some of them. There's a tremendous amount. It's amazing that they all came out of that one location in S3. So it's not like it's out of the global brand. It's all out of either Reading or the London presence.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the strange thing about S3 is it's almost like the house system. For those who didn't go to a school that had a house system, think Harry Potter. But so I was Huxley Associates, and back in the day, brand rivalry was absolutely fierce. So Gary Eldon was the managing director, Mike Smith was our contract director, Scott Fulton, who runs S3 out on the west coast of the US, was my boss, who started Reading Europe and the States. So actually, we were just tribal, and there was massive competition within S3. So it was almost like, to say that we competed against each other probably as hard, if not harder, than the external parties, and that bred a real culture of a winning culture and not getting sort of resting on your laurels, and that was really powerful as well.
Was Backdoor Berry any use as a recruiter?
So I met Backdoor Berry when I joined in '99, and Barry was a student in a gap year, and he was doing resourcing, so effectively photocopying, but also resourcing. And you could actually tell he had something about him then as well. So I got to know him briefly over that summer, and he's a top lad, and we've stayed in touch since.
Yeah, in hard times like this, it's good to have level-headed, smart killers around you. It's probably the best thing of doing this podcast is I've collected quite a few, because I think it's easy to make the wrong decisions when your back's against the wall. And for me personally, now I'm trying to make the right ones, but trying to listen to those around me, because everybody has an opinion. Oh, you should do this, you should do that. But in these times, it's very hard. What advice would you have for anybody that's having to make hard decisions right now?
I think the thing about decisions is you're best placed to take them. So no one can tell you what decision to take. People can question you. They can provide, if you like, that sort of critique. And have you thought about this? But ultimately, the two things about decisions you need to know are you need to be accountable for them, and you need to take them. So, take a decision and be strong about it. The only thing worse than a bad decision is no decision, because teams around you, people around you, your customers, your candidates, they're going to be looking for leadership in this market. So, take a decision, be decisive, communicate, tell people what you're doing. So look, my advice is you're best placed to run your business. Take your decision, don't second guess yourself, and your instinct, your data will inform that decision. Only change that decision if your data fundamentally changes. If something fundamentally changes, your strategies will be changing due to where we are now. But take those decisions and be strong about.
What did you learn about strategy? 20 years at S3, you probably were in 3 crashes, is that right?
Yeah, so I was thinking back through this. So when I joined on the contract desk, we had no jobs. Everyone had done their Y2K testing, so no one wanted to do anything. So I actually started although everyone thinks the 90s is an amazing market, July 99 was about as bad as it got. But then 2000 came, and everyone started piling into .coms, and that was amazing until the .com crash. And that's probably the first recession we saw. Literally companies that were printing money going out of business, and that was tough. And so 2001, Then through to the financial crash, 2007. That was pretty harsh. Huxley were a banking business, so that pretty much meant we had to restructure, regroup, and latterly the oil crisis. Big part of our book was around global energy. So I reckon I've seen 3 definite crashes in my career, and this is most certainly the 4th. So yeah, look, the advice around it is simple. You have to be better than even better than you were in a good market. You have to focus on why your customers use you, what your value is, what your utility is to them, and just be bigger and better.
What, let's say you're sitting down with a founder and they're saying, Andy, I don't know what to do. It's been good for a while. Where do you start? Like, what's the first question? How does Ray Donovan go into problem solving mode on this?
So look, I mean, first and foremost, I haven't done it outside of S3. I think that's fundamental to say. So I'm not coming in and saying that I've helped 20, 30 founders, but I think what I would do is I would look at it as on the basis of, be it a country unit or be it a business unit. And essentially what you sort of go through is a playbook of, the data. So what's fundamentally changed? Have your job flows changed? Have your ratios changed? Have your payment profiles changed? And actually then understanding that then gives you options around how you deal with that and potentially what levers you pull. The big danger that you potentially have in these situations is you're right in the eye of the storm of it. Okay, you will have things, you'll have bad news, you'll have lots of different things coming at you. It's very, very difficult to do, but where I've seen that organisation work brilliantly is where they've sat down, they've looked at the fundamentals, they've looked at the short, the medium, the long term, and they've taken decisive decisions for the business. Now, they've not always been popular, and sometimes hindsight has treated them, but they've been decisive, and they've based it around the data, and they've based it around, okay, our overall strategy is this, okay, this has changed, how do we still get back to where we want to be? Bearing in mind that the route may not be open, how do we get there?
I think the tricky piece to this is, in the world outside of S3, we're not as good at collecting data. We're not as good at knowing our ratios. How does that founder who's been a bit sloppy, like what type of stuff, like what type of granular stuff do you get into?
Look, typically what will happen, right, is understanding your data, and it may not be down to that minutiae level, but you'll know from your gut, you'll know from your people, you'll know from.
I have no jobs on. I have no candidates. Or
yeah, but I've generally not met. I think founders generally, the profile they're great salespeople. They knew their numbers. They knew what they had to do to get those numbers, and most of them are very detailed orientated around that. Generally, I don't think I've ever had a problem with the people I know and the people that I've seen go and set up other businesses getting hold of that data. They generally there or thereabouts know. If they don't have it, there's never a better time right now than to start measuring, because you need to take those, my advice would be you need to be taking those decisions based around the data, because potentially, as a recruitment business owner, you've got a certain amount of levers, and recruitment businesses are relatively simple. Okay, you've got certain cost base. Traditionally, that's going to be your staff, and that's going to be your property. There's not much else. SaaS software, potentially, not much else. Then you've got your revenue stream, and that's twofold. Have you got enough jobs coming in? Have you got enough candidates to fill those jobs? So disequilibriums in that, understanding how that works. And if you're in a candidate-driven market, and actually, you just haven't got enough jobs to fill, that's troublesome as well. So you just need to understand how those ratios work, and how has that changed from the last 3 months? How has that changed from the 3 months? And actually, or is this just a March thing? We're in the public sector it's a March thing because budgets are on hold. Right, okay, so let's not panic. Let's understand that the budgets always come back 1st of April, but what are our customers telling us about the 1st of April? You know, are we getting those vacancies? Are we getting those bookings in? Those type of things are the ones you need to look at. And it's not always obvious, because if you listen to the noise around, it's very, very different. I look out my window now, life looks good, right? The sun's shining, the birds are singing, you wouldn't know what's going on in the world, right? If I turn on the news, it's a completely different story. It's about that sort of, you know, it's about having the ability, and I've seen that, you know, leadership that I've worked with and been part of discussions where we've really put our foot on the ball and taken, you know, those difficult decisions, but in a decisive way.
In a decisive and a right way. Has it shocked you, maybe some of the actions of the last few weeks? Have you seen people maybe do things the wrong way?
Look, I've been surprised, actually. It's actually been better than I thought it would be. But there's a number of firms, and you know, people know who they are, and I'm sure after all this is over, it will really come out. And you know, these firms, on the face of it, they look amazing. They've got an amazing external brand image, but they're going to trash their brand that they've spent hundreds of thousands of pounds, years building up, in minutes just around their actions. And you know, I've got no problem with brands taking and firms taking decisive decisions. You have to do it. You have to, you know, as business leaders, you have a fiduciary duty to protect the business and protect as many people and the shareholders in the business. I get that, but it's how you do it, you know. So, and doing it in a fair way, doing it in a I guess an empathetic way as well. But you know, there are people being let go for reasons that they weren't let go. You know, people know it. You know, people are being fired for performance issues when we know it wasn't a performance issue. They just happened to have less than 2 years service and no employment rights. So I think there's a lot of companies out there that, you know, are, you know, potentially how they do it. Be honest with people. You know, I think no one's foolish to believe that, you know, firms aren't going to face challenge and fully understand what's actually going on out there. So if you level and say, listen, you know, this is how it is. We're really sorry. However, you know, and do it in a classy way, rather than just, you know, actually for the sake of saving a few quid on doing a process properly, just make up reasons. And you know what? You're going to see when all this is over, the brands that acted with class will rise to the top. And people have a long memory about the ones that didn't. And those war stories are going to come out pretty hard and fast.
Well, you saw my post yesterday about Joe Wallings. And
yeah, what a top act that is.
Yeah. Pays 10 grand on the worst day of the crash and says, hold on to that. I need you right on the other side.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, that's something else. And then on the other side, you know, you're chasing fees off people who are pretending they don't owe you. So it's a very hard time as a founder right now to get that money in, do it the right way. And as Joe said to me yesterday, get those lines of credit, but then get your people together and get them focused on what you can do. His big pump is he's flipping 3 of his executive search people, I think he said 3, or he intimated it anyway, into their technology interim project that they have going. So he's like, I'm taking this opportunity to build something that on the other side is going to be ready. I'm pushing it forward by 3 months. So he would admit himself, he's quite demanding. He expects a tremendous amount, but in times like this, you can see why he runs such a good business.
Yeah, and I think people have got to be thinking around what the new normal looks like. So, I mean, this is an amazing opportunity to, you know, for firms to really understand where their value is to their customers, and it's an amazing opportunity to say, in 3 or 6 months, you know, what will my business look like? And also, as well, my advice to anyone in this market right now is, what do you want to be remembered for in March 2020, in April 2020? When people look back around the actions you took as a business, as a leader, how do you want to be remembered? And actually, how people conduct and act themselves now will, you know, under pressure, is the truest trait of anyone's character. You know, how, you know, think about, you know, the friends that are there for you when you have a bad time. It's exactly the same with companies. How they treat people, how they treat their customers, how they treat their contractors, how they treat their staff. It will really, really win through. I mean, I remember a time that, you know, at S3, you know, we had some big companies go down on us, people like Enron, etc. And we paid all the contractors, you know, contractually, could have wiggled out of it. You know, we could have, we had really, really good tight contracts. But actually, what does that do to our business? What does that do to the trust? What does that do to the reputation of the brand that we spent all that time building up? And actually, actually the easy decision is protect your brand, because you think how much that's going to cost to build up, how much you've invested, and how much it costs to go, you know, how much it would cost to rebuild after something like that. And brands, you know, think of things like Bell Pottinger, think of things like Ratner's, just think of all the classic brands that have spent years and years building up and been destroyed in minutes, days, weeks. And you know, people are not thinking like that.
Talk to me about your new business. What a time to be launching.
No, it's a brilliant time to be launching. So it can only get better. So, you know, I think, you know, after 20 years at S3, you know, I had an amazing time there. It's a phenomenal company, phenomenal people. I met some of my best friends. I worked with some aspirational, inspirational people, worked with some amazing people. And it's just an opportunity to go and meet new people, learn, you know, from other companies, do some of the things that, you know, actually weren't in my responsibility S3, but I really wish would be. So I'm just working through my proposition at the moment. As I say, I wasn't planning to actually do anything until after Easter. I'm a bit lazy like that. So I was supposed to be in Cape Town, sat on the beach, but since I'm here, I might as well be useful. So it's a real eye-opener to me. Had some amazing conversations. There's some fantastic businesses out there. Some I'm really, really keen to go and work with. I've been working on some projects for some customers who I started with in early March. I was doing IR35 work packages. I'm looking at people's effectively doing discovery work packages on people's contractor books, and I reckon, you know, my background is going in effectively looking at how people can make better revenues, save costs, and
you're a process engineering type, aren't you?
Sorry?
Like, it's a lot of process engineering. You look at all the minutiae, don't you?
You know what? I think a lot of recruitment businesses and you know, recruitment businesses are amazing sales businesses, and recruitment companies do sales better than any companies. Okay, and that's what they are. They're sales machines with a bit of a back office tagged on. Now, typically, what most recruitment businesses want to do is sell, and proper businesses come and buy recruitment businesses. So I think typically what's happened is that's not taken as serious as it could be. And actually, when people come to sell, if they've not got the right structures in place, then they'll either have to spend time rebuilding those structures, or they're going to take a chip on their price. And I think where potentially I'd done the sales, I did sales for, you know, through manager through to consultant through trainee to director. I'm able to understand how difficult it is for the sales guys to recruitment. And then I'm able to translate that into, well, okay, you can do it like this, or you can do it like this, but I know what you mean. And actually, you know, my background is effectively stitching those two together, and developing those revenue opportunities, making sure the structures are in place, and actually a lot of these companies have got great ops teams, great commercial teams in place. They just haven't ever got to that point where, you know, they've encountered this proposition. So, you know, just understanding those 101s and just challenging why people have done that. You know, we've always done it like that, but why? And then going back and giving them the courage to change. The other thing to say at the moment is there is some amazing tech out there. Now, it's a double-edged sword, because there's amazing tech out there, but it's only amazing if you use it and you adopt it. So there's some great stuff out there that can add massive value to recruitment organisations. There's also some stuff that if you didn't implement it properly, then you just end up spending a lot of money on licenses and you wouldn't get the value. So actually understanding people's problems, their biggest problem and their biggest opportunity. The question I always get asked is, people look at my profile and say, well, where would you use you? And I typically say, the most efficient way of using me is on your biggest problem or your biggest opportunity. And that's where I'll deliver the most value.
Excellent. Well, I'd like to say thank you for you being a sounding board for us over the last little while. It's made a big difference, and we're a much smaller business than you would normally encounter. So it's probably a very different scenario. But yeah, it's been really good and very very helpful. Getting, I suppose, those two sides that you said in terms of operations and sales, they're the two that me and Charlotte tend not to marry together perfectly. So it's from first-hand experience. I know it works well. Tell me, where can people find you, Andy?
So I'm on LinkedIn. Or you can, I'm just currently working on the joys of building my own website. It currently points to my LinkedIn page, Andy@rexband.com. That's the name of my company, Rexband, which stands for Recruitment Expansion. Gary Elding hates the name, which is always a good sign. That's where I am. As I say, at the moment, I think everyone's just in a let's see what happens mode, which is a good time to be having conversations with people, finding out where they want to get to once all this is over. Because I think actually being positioned for companies to come out of the blocks, when the other advice is, I would say, having done 3 very big downturns, is however hard it's gone down, it's always come back bigger and better. So the danger is, you're not ready for when that comes, and you're still in hunker down mode as opposed to full on attack mode. So, having those conversations with people right now, so we can get out the blocks when everyone's allowed back in the office, and everyone's allowed to be meeting up and doing things. Very excited around just how quickly this industry will rebound.
Yeah, well, we'll do a follow-up one in the rebound when the boom's happening, and we'll look back at this with that we've made some good decisions and some logical ones. But thanks very much for coming on. Really appreciate it, and I always appreciate you as a sounding board, Andy.
Thanks. Take care of yourself. Safe trip home.